Hey everyone, it's your friend and colleague Jesse Green, and you're listening to the Savvy Dentist Podcast, the show where we help dentists grow and scale their practice. Now, if you want to grow and scale your practice, one of the things that we need to master mostly is ourselves, and how we show up as in terms of self-leadership can have a major impact on the direction our practice takes and, of course, the success that we achieve. But what I notice is that most people pay a lot of attention to things beyond themselves, and that's fine. There's obviously reasons for all of those things. But equally, if we don't understand the impact that our own mindset and our own growth has on our practice, we're missing perhaps one of the most important keys of business growth. Because the thing to understand is that business growth occurs as a result of personal growth. So for the business to grow, first we must grow. And what I have been noticing is a couple of worrying trends of recent times. And one of the things that we hear a lot of people talk about is what's wrong in the world. And it's really easy to fall into the trap of thinking the world is falling apart. Everyone's angry with each other. There's conflicts in various parts of the world, and the world can seem like a troubled place. And in amongst all that, it's very easy to feel very negative about things. And of course, when we start to feel negative, we start to go down this slippery slope of a mindset deterioration. And when we go through this mindset deterioration, what we see are people blaming either other people, circumstances, the economy, or things outside of themselves for where they are today. Rather than taking responsibility, they start to blame other things. And we see this a lot. People blame the economy. People aren't just buying at the moment. No one's got any money. Are you down? Great. So I'm down too. So now I don't have to feel bad about myself because everyone else is in the same misery party that I'm in. And so what we often see is this insidious mindset that creeps in where people start hiding behind excuses dressed up as reasons for their lack of success. And what ends up happening is they justify their lack of success based on external circumstances. And what ends up happening after that is they end up quietly quitting. They feel like their business is at the effect of external environments rather than being in their own control. And so the antidote to all of this negativity is, as Jocko Willink would say, extreme ownership. And I want to talk a little bit about what ownership really is and how that shows up in practice, because one of the things I've really noticed is that with all this blame and excuses and denial and all the things that are happening in the world, it's really easy to kind of forget the agency that we do have. And if you're going to be in business, here's the thing. You got into business because you wanted to have more agency in your life. You wanted to have results that were different to what you're having as an associate. You wanted to have a result that gave you financial freedom, time freedom, enjoyment, and fulfillment in your business, not just going to work and doing a job. Because if you weren't looking for those things, you might as well have stayed an associate. But let's talk about what ownership looks like. Ownership is what I call own your ship. Obviously, I'm a Navy guy by background, so owning your ship is really important. Now, some people say own your shit as well, with a T instead of a P, and that is just as applicable. But really what taking ownership is indicative of is a sign of maturity. And ultimately, what we need to understand is the results are the only truth. And so if you are getting results that you're happy with, then fantastic. Give yourself a pat on the back and a high five because you've obviously executed on the activities in a consistent way that produce desirable results. But if your results are not where they want to be, then we need to look at the activities you're spending your time on a day-to-day basis. And we need to take responsibility for the results. The very first thing we need to do is to take responsibility for where we are, but also understand that we have responsibility to make a change as well. And so what this really involves is taking some feedback and being receptive to that feedback. Now, the feedback might come from your patients, it might come from the marketplace as a whole, it might come from your team, it might come from a variety of other places. But being receptive to that feedback and being able to process that feedback is a really important way of understanding exactly where you are and how you got here. What I really want to share with you, though, is a key philosophy of ours, which is built around the concept of daring greatly. And many of you will be familiar with the Man in the Arena poem or the Man in the Arena speech by Theodore Roosevelt. And I want to read it to you for a second because I think it's really critically important. And this is my favorite piece of writing on the planet. And it's something that in Practice Max, the coaching mastermind that I have the good fortune and wonderful privilege to run, it is the thing that creates the culture in our community. So let me read it to you now. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. but who actually does strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Now, I love this poem. This poem is something that I think about every single day, because one of the things that when you own a business, you are absolutely in the arena, and there are going to be days when you're going to feel like a champion, and there are going to be other days when you feel like you're getting your backside handed to you. And if you're face down in the dust, sometimes it's easy to stay in the dust and just keep whining and moaning about it's not fair. But the champions are the ones that get up. And so I want to share with you an ethos that we have created in our community around daring. And I hope you find value in this, because ultimately it's going to help you during those times when you are feeling a little deflated, perhaps a little beaten. And as we come to the end of the year, what I really want you to do is to reflect on how are you going to dare differently in 2026? How are you going to get up if you've had a tough time and go again? How are you going to take complete and extreme ownership for your results and make 2026 a better year than you did in 2025? It's not going to happen by accident. It's not going to happen by being timid or passive. It's got to be intentional, and it's got to be deliberate. And so let's talk about what DARE actually stands for. So in our world, we have an acronym, a D.A.R.E, and so D stands for determination. And so determination means that I get to determine the outcome of my life. I am the author of my life. I determine the results. And that means that if it's to be, it's up to me. So for each of you, you get to determine your results, your outcomes in your life. The second part of determination is I step up and back myself to succeed always. Every single one of you are smart, intelligent, capable individuals. You got through dental school. Firstly, got into dental school, then you got through dental school, and now you're running a business. So you obviously have an ability. And what really hurts my soul a lot is when I see wonderful, talented, capable people not backing themselves. So I encourage you to back yourself, because here's the thing. If you don't back yourself, no one else will. And that's a really important thing. Just get in and back yourself and have a crack. And the thing that I'll say is you've got to take action before you see results, right? And so rather than looking for clarity of path up front, the clarity is revealed as you take action. And it's the iterative process of doing things and walking a mile and then seeing the next mile. You can't see the whole journey by staying at home. You've got to take action, and then the clarity comes thereafter. So the next part about determination is I persevere until I achieve my goal. There's another great poem by Calvin Coolidge where he talks about persistence being omnipotent. It's my second favorite poem, and it is critically important to understand that when you're going into your business, you've got to keep doing the things that you need to do until you get the results you're after. There's no point quitting halfway through and saying this is too hard or it's not working. If it's not working, reassess maybe what you're doing or how you're doing it. But don't quit on the business. Don't quit on your goals. Don't quit on your dreams. That's what losers do, right? And we want to make sure that you move forward towards your goals, towards your dreams. And of course, the final part of determination is you get to determine what is most important in your business and then get it done. That's really about taking ownership, okay? So the A in DARE, as I said, stands for acceptance. And I get to accept others for who they are and allow them their own experience. Now that means your team, your patients, the vendors with whom you interact in life, right? It's the whole let them theory that Mel Robbins talks about. They have their own experience. I get to accept that they can have that and leave that to them. But as Mel Robbins also says, let them, then let me. And I think that's the really important part of the puzzle is let them do what they're going to do, allow them to have that experience. I'm going to accept that. And now I get to choose how I respond moving forward. A key part of this is to accept yourself for who you are, right? All the good bits and all the not so good bits. We all have them. We all have our strengths. We all also have our weaknesses, and we get to accept who we are. And we also get to accept our past and our failures and our hurts and move past them to create an amazing future. One of the things that we know working with so many practice owners is everyone has their stuff. Everyone has things they're dealing with or have dealt with, usually in the present tense. So if you think that you're the only person that is dealing with stuff, I want to assure you that everyone is dealing with stuff too. And so I want you to accept that's your past and you get to move on from it. And if you need to get some help around that, then of course, seek that help out. But equally, accept that you can move past it and create a future that is really wonderful. Of course, when it comes to R, it's about responsibility. And so accepting full responsibility for your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. Because here's the thing, your thoughts and your feelings, or more specifically, your feelings than your thoughts, will precede your actions. So you've got to control your feelings and your thoughts because they will be reflected in your actions. They'll also be reflected in your speech, which will impact how you interact with other people. So take charge of your mental state. Take charge of your emotional life. Take charge of how that impacts beyond you. Also take responsibility for where you are now in all aspects of your life. So I'm talking in the business context here, but in general, where we are right now is the sum of the decisions that we've made in the past. If my business is in great shape, I've made some good decisions up until this point. If it's not, then I need to accept that I've made some poor choices along the way. But equally, if my relationships are not where they need to be, my health is not where it needs to be, if my weight is not where it's need to be, whatever it is, we get to take responsibility where we are now and we get to move forward. Of course, when it comes to responsibility, it's about responding consciously rather than reacting. So again, if you're working with other people, as we all do, we have the choice when things come up to understand that how other people experience this is going to be related to the stimulus and our response. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is between the stimulus and the response is to put a pause in there so that you can respond consciously rather than react reflexively. Sometimes when we're under pressure and we react rather than respond, we can do or say things that might be intemperate. We might make a poor decision. We might make a sharp comment. We might do something that creates bigger problems downstream. So again, consciously respond rather than react reflexively. And to do that, put a little pause between the stimulus and your response. And of course, E equals experience. And so the thing that I'm going to get you to remember is you determine what your experience of any given situation will be. You've probably all had the situation like I have where you've been in a situation when someone will say, that was the worst thing ever. And you might be going, I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was okay. You've had a different experience to them. Or the shoe might have been on the other foot where something really wound you up and other people going, really? Was it that bad? And so you get to choose how you interpret the situation and what you're going to make of your experience. And one of the things that's really important is to transform your negative or your poor experiences into positive experiences. And we do that by taking lessons out of them. We all understand that life isn't peaches and cream. It's not a bed of roses every single day. We're not seeing rainbows and unicorns across the sky. We need to understand that there's some reality there. But we also get to take that reality and to transform the experience into a positive one if it has been negative. But while I am talking about reality, one of the things I want to share with you is that the successful practice owners that we do, apart from all these daring activities which I'm sharing with you here, is they have crystal clarity about what is real and what's not. They don't get caught up in story. And so when it comes to the experiences, you want to understand that you create opportunities in your life for growth and expansion. Okay, so you get to create that, and you also get to create and understand that different people experience you and your business differently, and you want to give them the space to do that. So I want to share with you that rather than pointing the blame, pointing fingers, looking for reasons, excuses, putting your head in the sand and denying the issues that might be affecting your business, it's really important to take ownership, accountability, and ultimately responsibility for where you are, because you are the captain of your ship. Now, if your ship is going to sail to destination paradise, then fantastic. Let's set our course for destination paradise. But if we don't actively set a destination, if we don't consciously chart a course, if we don't consciously understand where we're going and what the tides do and what the reefs and the hazards along the way that might present, we are going to run the risk of running aground and not hitting our destination. So we need to make sure that we are consciously and deliberately setting our goals, adjusting our plans, but forever showing up in our best possible way, because no matter if our plans go awry or things don't quite work out, we can recover very well if we are taking ownership and we are strong emotionally and mentally, so that we can lead ourselves, then lead our team, and ultimately develop other leaders. So there you have it. The worrying trend I see is people not taking ownership, accountability, and responsibility, blaming other people, looking for excuses. The antidote is to dare greatly, to get in the arena, to understand that you are in the arena and you are striving. And so keep moving forward, one foot after the other. Never, ever stop, never, ever quit, and never settle for anything less than your ultimate goals. So I hope you find this episode helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye now. Hey everyone, it's Jesse here. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the podcast. If you're looking for some more tools, some more insights, some more inspiration to help you create a practice that you love, as well as a life that you love, well, head across to savvydentist.com and check out all the goodies that we have there waiting for you right now.